So long.
All right. Hi, everybody. It is now 6:31, and I will call the January 2025 meeting of the Dover Trails and Recreation Committee to order. Any public comments? See none. Any additions or changes to the agenda tonight?
I'd like to add a few things.
A few things.
Uh, they're probably quick things, but you can see if they're worthy of adding. So
Why don't
after
we
the
put it,
oh,
Mike, we'll put that under public comment because you're not technically a member to add to the agenda.
okay, can we back up to public comment?
Yes, we can back up to public comments. How can I help you?
So I was wondering if you could tell me uh what Sinuosity has either done to date or is going to be paid to do during this winter season. So I'd like to know how they're still affiliated with the town and the maintenance program at Horace Hill.
Yep. So there's not really winter maintenance on their part. That was never part of the plan to have them involved in a winter maintenance schedule. They're dealing with cleanups in the spring, blowdowns and whatnot during the summer, clearing drainages, and then in the fall doing leaf blowing and final cleanups before the snow falls. But no, there was no plan for them to be doing winter maintenance.
So if a tree comes down tomorrow, what
Then they
happens?
would come and take care of that. Yes.
So are they paid on an hourly basis of when we need them, or is
Yep.
there a contract for the year?
Yep, they gave us a number based on, max would be this much if we had, however many hours for clearing trees, however many hours for leaf blowing, blah, blah, blah. But they invoice us hourly for the person that's in there doing the work. So we're not paying them to be on standby.
When you say there's a max that there could be, is there a minimum? Meaning, are they definitely coming in for $5,000 worth of work a year, or is
We're
it
not, yeah, we're not paying them like that. That's not how it's set up. We're not paying them if they're not on the property. So if they come to do cleanings and leaf blowings and things like that, they get paid. If they don't come to do those things, they do not get paid. There is no minimum that we're paying them. It's all based on the work that they do, not what's expected.
and you make that call to bring them in?
Yeah, I mean, Brooke owns the two parcels right next to the property. He's on it just as much as I am. So if he sees something that needs work, then we talk about it and he does the work.
Well, he doesn't just walk in and do his own work. I don't care where he lives. I know where he lives.
Okay.
It,
No, I'm not saying that he just walks out there and starts working. Like if he sees a problem or is notified of a problem, then we talk about it and the work gets done.
okay. All right. So as of this year so far, Sinuosity has not been paid anything.
Correct.
Okay. I have another question.
Sure.
Uh, I'd like kind of an
Mike, I'm sorry. Before you move on, can I just ask a question regarding that before you move on to your next?
sure.
Um, so, Eric, so they're not waiting till the spring to clear any blowdown for the like upcoming mountain season. They're effectively maintaining it for if they're maintaining it during the winter, then they're effectively maintaining it for winter use.
Well, I mean, just if like they're not out there grooming trails, right? But if a tree
Yep.
comes down across a trail that people are using, whether it be for hiking, snowshoeing, I know people are skiing in there. We'll talk about that. Um, if those trails that we had them build has a tree across it, then they'll come and clear that tree. This winter, we have not had any of those issues.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Garber, second question.
Just kind of an overview of where the town stands on the Ridge project. From the parking lot to the actual trails being built. Is the town involved? Is it not involved? What's going on between the town and the Ridge project?
So I know that Tommy and SoVTA has been moving forward with their plans as far as in the woods. We did install the first 3 spaces on the south easement that we have with Jacob Brown. We are prepared to install the second 3 spaces that would be on the Bears Crossing easement to the north of the middle section. And then Tommy and I have been speaking. Andy was working on the special use permit for the Forest Service that grants us access to another 25 by 50-foot rectangle there to add another 2 spaces in the middle. Because basically, between those 2 easements, the United States Forest Service land comes out and meets our right of way and those 2 easements.
So just so I'm clear as we go
Yeah.
forward, the town's only part in this trail project is the parking lot. After the parking lot, the town is not involved.
Correct.
Okay. That's it.
Tommy?
Yeah, I think it's important, since we have a Trails Committee and we're talking about this, just to keep everybody informed. The parking lot is still an intrinsic part of the entire project. When I was talking to Eric, kind of saying how you build a house, you need a foundation. So the parking lot, while it does not have to be built, okay, for a lot of the pre-construction, like for instance, we've already been flagging back there, starting to create where the layout will be and putting flags there to make sure that the Forest Service agrees with the buffers and that they're not going through any ecologically sensitive areas. We do need that parking lot in full to be complete, which includes that special use permit. We can't fundraise or write grants until we know what the finished project looks like. And again, if that came to where it was just going to be those 2 spots, then that's the finished project. But we have been waiting, and Eric, this is not a shot. This is, it's not on your desk right now, but we have been waiting for a year and a half on that. And hopefully we're going to have that soon, because I imagine it'll probably take the Forest Service, another 4 months. I'm not sure exactly how many that's going to be, but it is imperative to the project that is complete. So we are hoping to have that special use permit that'll come with all the other detail attached to, the other easements that the town negotiated, and agreements they have with Bear Crossing with that. So, that is very important for the project, and hoping to have that very shortly.
That answer your question, Mike?
Yep.
Thank you. Tommy, thank you. Okay, members, any additions or changes to the agenda? All right. So, can I have a motion from somebody to approve the minutes of the September 10th meeting?
So this
Shannon?
is hopefully Matt, Julia, Tom, Kristen, or Sarah, because they were the ones here.
I can make a motion. It's Julia.
Julia, you'll be the second. How about Sarah, or Sarah
Perfect.
seconds? Julia motions, Sarah seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? That's an aye. All right. So moving right along, Horace Hill Backcountry Skiing. So we did receive an email. There was a gentleman who hadn't been on the property in a couple of years, went up there to ski and was like, "Hey, great trails, but you built trails in the middle of a skin track." So that's unfortunate, but I think with the nature of what we had planned to do up there, that was kind of imminent, right? I have spoken to a number of people who've been skiing the property this winter, who said that they've been using the climbing trail as the skin track and skiing all the same stuff that they were before. I think, just kind of a lack of snow also makes it more prominent, right? Like there's going to be berms, there's going to be, trail sections and things like that. So there is change as far as the skiing is concerned. I did notice, SOVTA has removed the winter maps, which I think kind of helps people to realize like, hey, it's not that anymore. And then we're, as a town, going to take a look at it and focus on, getting a winter map together for next year for people who are looking to use the property in that nature, and just kind of outline that dual direction climbing trail as a skin track, and then make sure that zones are cleared so that people can still get to the top and ski down. So Tommy, I did respond to the gentleman that reached out, Seth, and filled him in on that. Said we appreciate the input, and to stay in touch, because we are going to be taking a look at that backcountry skiing stuff again this summer. Okay. Any questions on that, Tommy?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I more of a comment.
Okay.
I do think that years ago, when this group had many discussions over many meetings about what the usage was for that property, and when we went to the town, in fact, Joe Mahan, when the sledding issue came up, and we'll talk about that next, said that that was for backcountry skiing. That was always in the plan, and that's when the town had partnered with SOVTA, and we built those climbing trails, some bridges, and we did the glading in there. It was months worth of work. I did share, and I know you said they could reach out to you, Eric, that we do get quite a bit of commentary on our social media. And you did say I could forward them to you, but it's a little weird on social media to do that. They've fundamentally changed. There's large berms. Not that mountain biking wasn't always going to be a part of that property. That was kind of the other use with hiking. But once this body here kind of helped a little bit with some names, or I forget what our input was, like up to the RFP. Once that was done, there really wasn't any input in there. But back in the day, we had spoken about making sure that they didn't conflict, the mountain biking, the backcountry skiing, because it was popular. And I'm not saying that you can't ski it now. You can ski anything if you really want to. But it's not the work that was put in for those months. It certainly completely changed. So, whether or not, when you're looking to go out and create new glades, or, new climbing trails, if you can move it over, I would think that that's certainly something to think about. But, I would say that the backcountry skiing, with the way that the trails were built, fundamentally changed what was originally done.
Yeah, and I think I don't disagree with you. I mean, realistically, less trails were built than were originally proposed on the property. So, I mean, there was going to be some conflict no matter what, right? I think the main goal for us was getting those summer uses taken care of, getting the trails in there, getting the boardwalk, getting the disc golf done. And like I said, the plan will, is for this summer to go out and look at, how those original glades were affected, and what we can do to provide, ample skiing There's still plenty of property in there that doesn't have trails on it, right? I mean, there's still plenty of skiing to be had. It's just that we need to go out there, make sure those new zones, if the old ones don't work, make sure the new zones are cleared, and that people understand, hey, this is the climbing trail, this is the skin track now, and these are the zones. And that's not a phase that we had reached by the time we finished the project. So, we're in, by no means we're like, hey, just put a bunch of trails in the middle of those skin tracks. Like, that was not the plan. It was, we're making it all fit together. And so far we've got hiking, biking, and disc golf all together. So I don't see any reason why we can't have, and we'll get to it, but the snowmobiling, the skiing, and the sledding in the winter as well. So, we'll take a look at it this summer, and try to come up with some winter maps and things like that to let people know what those areas are that can still be skied, without running into a berm.
Gotcha. And I don't know if I have to keep raising my hand, or if we can go back and forth.
Okay.
And what would something like that look like in terms of, finding people who are licensed sawyers, or would it be hand cut? Like, what would be the process for new glades to be cut Like, is that something Sinuosity does?
Nope. No, so it would be hand cut and actually, so we don't because it's a town property and not United States Forest Service land, we don't actually need like licensed sawyers. Technically our road crew who's certified to run chainsaws could come out and cut trees if we needed that. We don't need that in this case. There are plenty of open sections up there that with minimal hand cutting and some, moving some down trees and things like that, we can have ample skiing zones on the property. Again, I think there was, the overlap of maybe like old maps, people who had skied those zones before, not realizing that that work had been done in there. So I think once we establish those zones, get those winter maps out there, we can kind of be like, okay, this is the skiing area, or these are the best skiing areas. You can ski anywhere you want on the property, but I'm saying, in terms of like glades that we would trim back and maintain, we'll get that together this summer.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that is one of the zones in the state of Vermont that did make the best backcountry skiing in Vermont book, which is regarded as kind of the guidebook for all of Vermont for backcountry skiing. So Horace Hill is memorialized in that book for that. And then just last comment, I realize it's hindsight's always you got to look. It's tough to look back, but there is that beautiful map at the bottom. Maybe with some collaboration, the winter usage could have made it into that map. But or maybe you'll just put a whole new one up or something.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the board that's in that kiosk was not the expensive part of that map, right? Like if we have to create a new map and put it into that kiosk, that's not a huge expense. And if we need to update it, I mean, it's always been said that if we need to update that we can easily do that. So there's even been talk of flipping the map because I guess some people have issue with trying to read it more like a ski map where it's like bottom and top, so I'm not as concerned about if we had to replace that, once those zones are established. Um we can make that happen. All right. Any other questions on backcountry skiing or comments on Horace Hill? Awesome. We're seeing great numbers, honestly. On Horace Hill through the fall and even into the winter. I mean, we look at the Christmas months. I'm trying to find, thank you. Oh, Shannon, can I share? Sorry. Thank you. There's this Chrome. Yeah. Hey, there's my Chrome window. All right. Just looking at, you can kind of see. So here's the daily totals on Horace, coming through 2022 when we hung the counter up. And then, little spike here, towards the end of 23, summer, fall. And then, you start to see when the property was finished and opened, you're seeing really, really good numbers here through the fall. And then, even up through like the Christmas week and things like that. You know, it, when you look at what our previous usage was winter and summer, I mean, it's steady, but it's low. And then you can see, August, there's over 6,000 and you cut that in half, right? Because if somebody goes in, they come back out. That's just the nature of, but still to have, 3,100 people on the property for the month of August, we're pretty happy about that. So we expect those numbers to, continue to rise. And we're definitely happy with the usage that we're seeing on Horace Hill and with expanded advertising and marketing and people getting the word out there about the property. You're only going to see that go up. So we're pretty excited. Next on the agenda, Horace Hill sledding. And this, Mr. Garber brought this up at the last select board meeting. I know the board is going to discuss it again on Tuesday night, but I just wanted some feedback from you guys on how you felt about it. So basically, Mr. Garber came and informed us that people have been using the vast snowmobile trail to sled. I'm not sure how many of you have been on that trail. It wouldn't be my first choice probably to take my kids out sledding right there. It's It's pretty steep in spots, but they're out there and they're using it. Mike had asked what our stance was on that. And again, I think the board, I have it on the agenda for Tuesday to discuss it. But since we were having a meeting, I wanted to put it out there and see if anybody had any feedback about, that type of usage on the Vast Trail. Patricia?
I have a question. Who is liable if somebody gets hurt on that trail?
So it's on our property, right? So it's covered under our liability policy. I mean, it's no different if they were sledding on the Vast Trail or if they were sledding 50 feet to the left and got hurt sledding, on the property. The entire recreation area is covered under the town's liability policy.
Okay. No, I just wondered, when I lived in Colorado, I worked on an ambulance, and sledding accidents are some of the gnarliest because they don't have brakes, they don't have helmets. I don't know, sledding is just one of the more dangerous things that I saw, really. When people are coming down hills that are groomed, like a ski area or something.
Yeah.
That
Mike, we don't have an additionally insured type of situation there, right? Like you guys don't carry insurance on the trails, or how does that work?
We do. Vast does cover you for sledding incidents.
Oh, wow.
All the snowmobiles, first of all, have insurance.
No, we know that. No, I knew that.
Right. And there is an insurance policy. Usually we use that in case of broken limbs. It's head on. Yeah, I can see it working when there's head on accidents. But
The vast policy covers snowmobiling though, right? Not other trail users.
we'd have to really look into it. What if a snowmobile just hits a random hiker in the woods? Is that hiker covered? I really don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm pretty sure the vast insurance is more for landowners, so they can't be sued if a snowmobiler is in an accident on someone's property.
Correct.
I'm not sure if it helps with like other trail users who aren't vast members.
Hey, Mike, I have a
Tommy, one
question.
second. Kristen, go ahead.
Mike, so are they, I just have never been on the trail in the winter. Are the snowmobilers kind of going uphill and then the sledders are coming downhill? Is that the recipe for disaster that we have?
Yes.
Okay.
And let's, I'd like this committee to make some kind of recommendation. So I'm kind of prepared for what might happen at the select board. Let's remember that usually on private property, which is what we get who are landowners, they don't allow sledding on their trails. And they probably wouldn't allow skiing down the trail either. Now, we do come across cross-country skiing all the time, but not downhill skiing, not just random sledding. The only thing I can really compare it to is the White House, which has that huge hill down in Wilmington. And they have it separated where the Vast Trail is on one side and their tubing is on another. And I don't think they would allow the tubing to go down the vast portion of the trail. So, I mean, it would make sense if the town said it shouldn't be a permitted use. But again, I'd like to hear what this committee has to say, and then we'll see what the select board has to say.
Tommy, you had a question? Comment?
Sorry, I'm doing this on my phone. Yeah, I watched the video of the select board, and I would just say, forget the liability, like just common sense. Unfortunately dropping my kids off constantly and picking them up the mountain. I'm past there all the time. I've seen even the plastic sleds you can get at the dollar store, because as you said, it's a beautiful project. So there's families are using it, and there's the park right there and the trail. And I just think it's a no-brainer. Somebody's going to get killed. That my recommendation just would simply be that the select board says absolutely no sledding, and they go in there and put signs up there like tomorrow.
On the snowmobile trail or on the whole property?
I would put it right next to your sign when you enter the property,
Okay.
because yeah,
Can
I
I?
mean,
Yeah, one
Sorry,
second. Julia.
can
Tommy,
I?
you're still talking. Tommy, you good?
Yeah. I don't know that once they get down to the snowmobile trail, they're gonna see it, but at the kiosk, you know, you could either list approved usages or just put one that's not allowed. And for instance, another place where skiers intersect, that's a good point, Mike, because that's also recipe for disaster is the Dovertown Forest. Because at the bottom of the ski trails is is that a vast trail down there, Mike?
Yeah, runs all the way to Price
And
Hill.
there's signs for snowmobilers as well to let them know. And I forget, I don't know if it intersects with the skiing there. I don't think it does.
It does.
It does. Okay. And you know that those are important signs in Dovertown Forest, and it just lets snowmobilers know that you know you could be intersecting with a skier. But in terms of the sledding, I do think that should be right next to the kiosk. You know, sledding is prohibited.
Okay. Sarah, I'll be to you in 1 second. It was Julia and then you. Julia,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I second that. I think that that's a recipe for disaster on or off the just common sense. It's very tight in there, and a sled, you don't have the control that you have with, you know, something self-propelled. My view. I think that's dangerous.
Okay, thanks, Julia. I mean, Sarah, before I get to you, I will say, I mean, there's absolutely areas of the property where I'm thinking of, I forget which hole it is, but as you first come up the first section of the climbing trail before it splits off, you know, to the trail goes to the left and the climbing trail continues to the right. There's a huge clearing right there with ferns and, you know, like it's all open, right? So that's my only thought about like no sledding at all. Like that's actually a great place to sled, right? It's a hill that comes down to a flat and there's really no danger right there. And there's other pieces of the property where that fits as well. So my initial thought when Mike brought this up was like maybe we say, you know, no sledding on the vast trail at least. But I don't know that the board, I mean, I appreciate you guys, your input and your comments. I don't know that the board's going to go as far as to say no sledding whatsoever.
Or
Sarah, go ahead.
can I just
Hold on,
respond to
Julia.
that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or is it, to your point, maybe it's you have a designated sledding spot and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as this winter goes, though, right, like similar to the backcountry skiing, that's something we would need to evaluate this summer and have additional signage put up for, because at this point, by the time we get signs ordered and hung, I mean, the snow's going to melt. So, as far as I'm concerned, you know, my main concern right now is the sledding on the actual vast trail. Sarah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, you want us to do it tomorrow. The select board doesn't even meet again for a week. So in a week, the select board can make a decision, signs can be ordered. I don't think anybody thinks it's a good idea for people to be sledding on the vast trail. I don't think anybody who was sitting in the select board meeting thought it was a good idea. I don't think anybody in this meeting thinks it's a good idea. So I don't think there's going to be any pushback about doing that. The recommendation was until we can get the signs put up, it may not be the worst idea for people on snowmobiles to recognize that there may be people who are poaching for the next, what, week, 2 weeks or something, and maybe show a little bit of common sense of their own of being cautious until we can get this sorted and signed properly. And personally, I understand there is a good sledding hill there, but given the people's propensity to encroach and, you know, and sort of take a little bit of permission and stretch it further than they should, that maybe we just make it no sledding, at least for this winter, and like nowhere on the property at all until we have until we can talk about it sort of slowly and look at pros and cons and maybe even walk areas and mark them over the summer and then be ready for next winter. But I don't have any problem with the idea of just saying no sledding. And not taking chances of somebody going, well, if I can do it here, I can do it there. And somebody's going to walk in onto the property from a different, not necessarily from the base area, come in off of Maple. Doesn't Maple Loop come close? Or And they won't see that sign. So we need to be aware of every possible, every logical entry point, have signage for that. And in the meantime, I don't know, Mike, if there's a way to communicate with people who are using the area to just say, until we get the sled thing sorted out, just be aware that you may encounter some people who are there who aren't supposed to be there. We're working it out. We will have it worked out. But in the meantime, take it a little slow in this area until we get the signage up and we have it covered.
Mr. Garber.
So Sarah, all great points. I did on the Stump Jumper Facebook page post that this issue was before the select board and made our community aware of what was going on with a good response. Kind of what I was looking for more at the select board, or what you're saying now, is that I could possibly post that on Mount Snow property owner, which is a huge Facebook page of everybody in the area, and tell them that there is also this concern. I didn't want to overstep my boundaries and flood social media without the support of the town, right? I didn't, that's why we're here, so I can work with you to make everybody aware. But I can't do that without your permission or the town's permission.
Sarah?
So I think for the immediate moment, what we get notified, what we want to get out there is that you may encounter people who are on these trails without permission. And so for that brief period of time until we can get that signage, you're going to just to be a little bit more aware that we have found, I mean, this is the first time we've had a report of sledding, right?
Correct.
So it's not like it's been this massive boom, but then again, once somebody says it's a great place to go sledding, they tell two friends. And so if the people in the snowmobile community can just be aware that the problem is getting resolved, but it's not going to get resolved today or tomorrow. And then absolutely, I didn't get the sense from anybody sitting at that select board meeting that they thought we should find a way to make it good for sledders. Like, I didn't get that sense at all. It was just until we can get everything, get the, T's crossed and I's dotted, which is formally voting and then putting up a sign. If the snowmobilers are aware that they may encounter this, it protects them. It protects the sledders who aren't supposed to be there, but that doesn't mean we should run them over just because they're in the wrong. And then we get the signs up as quickly as we can. And then you pump out to all of your, wherever you can, that, the Horace Hill parcel is not a sledding facility. We can put it on the town website. We can put it on the town, on the maps for Horace Hill. We can post it in a lot of different places. It's just, 1 week and we'll have the vote and then we'll move forward.
I can have signs up pretty quickly once the board has the discussion. Tommy, go ahead.
Yeah, just on the signs, I don't know if the select board, if they made an order, and while the signs were being ordered, not that takes a long time, but even if that took a few weeks, could you put like a notice, like by notice of Dover Select Board, no sledding, even if it was paper and tacked in, just for the meantime as you were waiting for the signs, if you could.
Absolutely. So once the board makes the decision, right? If they're like, hey, order signs, we use those kiosks, to display messages as they're necessary, right? Like, hey, there's bathrooms here, the bathrooms there. So I can absolutely, bring up like a letterhead, laminated, and get that tacked at least to the kiosk and maybe in a few other spots, just so that people know, like, hey, this is not, while we wait for those signs. Sarah, go ahead.
And next Wednesday morning, it can go up on the website.
Yep.
And be attached to the map that's up there. So people who haven't been there before are going to look for the map. We can have it on there Wednesday morning.
And socials and everything else.
Right.
We'll spread the word. We'll spread the word good. So, okay. Does anybody have any additional comments or thoughts on this piece? I think, Mike, you asked for a recommendation. Is everybody okay with me taking the recommendation to the board that at least for this winter, we put the stop on the sledding on the property? Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Tommy. Okay. All right, cool. So I'll take that recommendation to the board as, a recommendation from this group on Tuesday. Okay. And if you want to be a part of the conversation, by all means, show up to the meeting. All right. My last bit is just a brief update. So the Land and Water Conservation Fund put out a round of grants. I shot for the moon and landed an arrow. So we made it through the first round of the grant application for their fund for potentially a $1.3 million state-of-the-art in-ground concrete skate park. It's exciting. We throw our hat in the ring for a ton of grants, and a lot of times it's tough to pull that money south of Montpelier. So we're pretty excited about that. It wasn't in the iteration that it was for this application. It wasn't something we had to discuss in depth because there were really no plans, right? It was all based on ballpark numbers and handshake promises from the landowner that that this thing could move forward. So now that we've made it through to the second round, we have designers coming in to give us quotes. We have, agreements being drafted on properties and things like that. Tentatively, we're looking at an easement on the front lawn of what is now Vermont Academy at Mount Snow, right next to the police station, that flat section, formerly the Matterhorn. Been working with Ben Gardner, who's the new manager there at the Mount Snow branch, who's very interested in seeing this happen. So as I get some more of this information together before, I don't have to have that second application or the full application in until middle of March. So I should have more information by our February meeting, and we can kind of go over stuff then as it's going along. But I figured the money was out there. It's in the plan. Why not take a stab at it? And we, like I said, we got lucky the first round. So any questions on that? Michael Garber, how did I know?
I have to ask, you said the
Yeah.
front lawn of Vermont Academy, the
Yeah.
side lawn is a snowmobile trail. Are we talking about the side lawn in between Vermont Academy and the police station? Or are we talking about their lawn kind of in front of their whole parking lot?
In front of their whole parking lot bordering Route 100.
Gotcha.
Is that okay?
It's not my place to say if it's okay or not. I just wanted to know
Okay.
where we're thinking.
Kristen.
So just to be clear, this is land that the town doesn't own. Are we gonna have the same kind of issue that we did when we were talking about pickleball courts?
Nope. There's been multiple discussions and nothing is set in concrete yet, but about easements or basically them providing us that land. There would be no closures on the park, whether school was in session or not. Granted, they only have people there during the winter, so it's not like you're probably not going to have a ton of skaters during the winter anyway. But there would, the park would never be closed to the public for school functions or anything like that. So it would be if and when we move forward with that piece, we would have the rights to that section of property. Tommy?
And first, that's awesome. And they would let you use their parking lot?
Yep. They're very excited about it, actually. They said, especially during the summer and things when they don't have kids there, and even if they did have kids there, the parking lot is absolutely open for use. And they were thinking during the summer of, pulling, once a week, getting different food trucks to come and park. And, so there would be food there. We would, obviously we provided outhouses for other areas. So we would do that there as well so that they weren't using the school facilities. Tommy?
And then just one follow-up question. If they sold that land, or let's say that VA said, you know what, this isn't working out, then there's nothing they can do. The town has that easement, that's the town's, regardless of if that building or property changes hand, and the parking would be grandfathered in
Correct.
to where that was always town. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so if and when this thing moves forward, it's going to be on the basis that we have control over those things, right? Like we're not going to build something to 2 or 3 years from now have them say, "Oh, it's not yours anymore." So it's all contingent on that, them following through on that piece and obviously us getting, I mean, that's a large amount of American currency. So we're working on that now, and like I said, I'm hoping to have more details for you guys at the February meeting. Sarah, did you have a question?
I was just going to say typically easements travel with the land, not with the ownership. But certainly that would be part of the contract and a town attorney would be all over it before we invested anything.
Yep. Just like with the Valley Trail, right? Like somebody bought the Invasion building,
Layla's,
Layla's, so like where that Valley Trail comes back behind Invasion, they were like, "Oh, I don't want that. I don't want to let you have that easement anymore." And then sorry, like we have the easement, right? So that travels with the land, not with who owns the property. So good question though, Tommy. Any other questions, comments? Like I said, we're meeting with a designer and at least getting some tentative stuff together. So I'm hoping to have some more information together for you for February, and then we'll get that second application in for March. But yeah, that was my update on that. All right. Other than that, our next meeting is scheduled for February 11th. So if you have things you'd like to discuss, please reach out to me beforehand. I'll make sure I get them on the agenda. Can I please have a motion to adjourn? Sarah makes the motion, Patricia seconds. We'll see you all in February.
Congratulations, Eric. That's really exciting.
Thank you.
Bye,
Have a good
everyone.
one.
That is
I got it.
Bye.